friends, Christy here from Crafty Christy's Creations, and today I'm going to show you how to take an ordinary popcorn container and turn it into an extraordinary popcorn container. So let's jump over into Silhouette Studio and get started. Okay, so here we are in Silhouette Studio. I've gone ahead and pulled in the popcorn box. If you're not sure how to do that, you can either come up to File, or you can come to this little envelope here. I like to use the envelope. And then you're going to navigate to wherever you saved your download. And then once you find it, you click on it and click open. And then it's going to open the file for you. So here it is. And then we're going to take this and turn it into a print and cut and add the lovely red stripes to it. And we're going to print it on white cardstock, so it looks like a traditional popcorn box. So we can pull that off to the side. We can pull this off to the side. We can get rid of that. And then we're going to use this. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the size of my media to 8.5 by 11, which is letter size, because that is the size of my printer. And then I'm going to come down here and show print border and show cut border. Those are both going to be really important. And then we'll turn on our registration marks. Okay, so that is your default registration marks. And if you see, you're not going to quite get the entire design in there. So you can either resize this. Right now it's going to be 6 inches tall and 3.5 inches wide at the top, 2.5 at the bottom. So certainly you could resize if you wanted to. If you're going to do that, you want to make sure you grab everything and then resize, because if you just resize one piece, it won't be proportional and your project won't turn out right. So the other thing we can do is we're going to adjust our registration marks. So over here under advanced options, we're gonna fix the inset. So the thing to know, your inset, which is where your your cut border is going to be, needs to stay within the print border. Now you can see down here at the bottom, I'm already not in my print border. This is just kind of specific to the printer that I have. When I've used other printers at baseline, it worked just fine. So I do need to pull that bottom one actually up further to make sure it's within my print border. Okay, and then the rest of them, I like to make my inset smaller. So I'm just going to drag these out as small as they'll go. Okay, and you'll see I'm still within my print border because you need to be able to print these little spots here. This is the registration mark. This is what your this is what your cutting machine will read to know where to cut on your piece of paper. So then I'm just going to get this centered here where I want it. All right, now that we have that done, it's time to do the fun stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is ungroup this. So you can right click and hit ungroup. And that is just ungrouping my, score lines from my main project. So I'm just going to undo that move, Control and Z. And the reason we did that is because we're going to be working with line colors when we go to print. So we need to make sure everything's going to stay what it is. And then to see better what we're doing, I'm going to take our main body here and I'm going to not give it a fill, but we are going to give it a black stroke. So now we can see where everything is, and you can still kind of see our white score lines there. So that's good. All right. So we are going to do some fun things here. We're going to grab our rectangle tool and we're just going to draw a rectangle. And I'm going to try to make mine the thickness of kind of one of these scallops. And I'm going to bring that all the way down to my score line there. It's okay if it goes over the top here. That's not a big deal. But I'm going to try to line those up. Okay, that looks good. It can bleed up here. That's fine. That's just going to be color. It's still going to cut right here. And I'm just going to make copies of these to go down every other scallop line. So I'm just going to hold down the Alt or Option key if you're on a Mac, and then so you get that plus sign. Now I'm going to click and drag another copy. And then you just want to let go of your mouse before you let go of your Alt key. Okay, the other way you could do that, you can come over here to your replicate panel, and you can certainly just duplicate another copy of it and then just put that wherever you need it. I'm going to put this one over here. And you can see on the edge here, it's going to bleed into the other side. So we do not want to do that. So we're going to have to do some manipulating with this one. So I'm going to double tap. And now we bring up the corner anchor points here so we can do some point editing. So this one here, I'm tapped on it, and now you can see it's an open square. And now I'm just going to use my arrow key to tap up to get that line to match up with where my white score line is. And then I'm going to do the same with this other one. I'm going to click, and I want it to, I'm going to drag that all the way up so that it's level with this score line here. So I'm just going to use my arrow key. You can always click and move it around. The arrow key, it takes longer, but it's easier to help keep the same distance on your shapes. Let's click on that again. So I find it's more accurate to keep the shape the same. But like I was saying, you can always just click on it and do it that way. So I can click and just, oops, Control Z to undo. So I can click right on that, and then I can drag it around. But you see, I am also easily can move other things. So that's why I like to use the arrows. All right, so we'll leave that one there. That looks pretty good. And then we're going to put another one over here. So again, click and drag another copy to go to this far side. Oop. Control Z to undo. I didn't mean to move that. All right, so again, we're going to do some point manipulating. So I'm going to double tap, and that brings up our points. This one looks about right. And then this one, so I'm just going to click to use, and then we can just drag that up here. And I think that looks good there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give these a fill color so we can see what we're doing here. And I'm going to fill these in red because that is the color that we want. I'm going to leave that one, and we'll fill this one. And then when you fill, you know, you can kind of tell a little better whether or not you've made it where you need to go. So I'm just going to make this a little bit wider. There. Now that's covered that whole piece. I'm leaving this one because I'm going to continue to use this one to fill in the sides over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another copy, and I'm just going to put skinny lines in the other scalloped areas. So I'm just going to click and drag another copy. And this one we're just going to make a lot skinnier. I think that looks good. And then I'm just going to try to center that the best I can. And I can use my arrow key to tap. That looks pretty good. And then again, I'll make, we can go ahead and give that a fill color. And then I'm going to click and drag another copy to this one, making sure the bottom is on that score line. And then we'll make one more over here. Okay, that. I'm just eyeballing these. You can certainly use your alignment tools up here to get them perfectly aligned if you'd like. Okay, so that looks good. And now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. So what I can do, because these should be proportional, so I'm just going to grab all of these here. And we'll see how good of a job I did designing this. I'm going to group this together, Control G. And then I'm going to make a copy. So holding down Alt, click and drag. And now with this one, I'm just going to have to turn it. And then we will have to still do some adjusting on some of these. And that's not quite the right angle here. And this is why I left this one not filled in, so I can kind of see better how this looks. And so I can tell this isn't like quite the right angle. This might be okay. When you look at the bottom here, you know, once this is kind of straight with your white, you know, then you know you're at the correct angle. So we still need to fix our angle a little bit. So I'm just gonna come back up to my little handle here so I can rotate that a little bit more. Okay, and then we'll just scoot those down. Okay, and now those are sitting right on my score line, so that looks good. And then we just need to, on these edges, I'm going to ungroup this, Shift Control G to ungroup. And then I'm just going to fix these ones here. I'm going to take them and give them a no fill just so I can take a better look at these. That one looks pretty good right there. And I want to look at this guy and see, might need, so I'm just going to double tap to see where my points are on that one. And it looks like we just need to move a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now we can go ahead and fill this one in. We can fill these in. And we can fill this one in. Okay, so now we've got our stripes and everything looks good. These are our side flaps. We don't need to put anything there. This is the bottom of the box. We don't need to put anything there. Okay, so now let's go take a look at our send panels so we know how this is going to work when we're ready to cut. And we are going to do by line color. So when you open your line color, you want to take off your red. And now all you're going to do is your black line, which is the outline you want to cut. And then your white, which are your score lines, you're going to want to score. And then because I'm using a ratchet blade, I'm going to add my pause in there so I have time to adjust my ratchet blade between cutting and scoring. So the reason we're not going to do anything with our red, because if I turn on the red, which are our stripes, it's actually going to cut each of these stripes, and we do not want to do that. We're going to print those stripes on there. So now you're all set up here. I am going to make a little bit more of an adjustment just to scoot this a little bit. So I'm going to go back to design. I'm going to click and rubber band select my entire design. And I'm going to group it. Oop, let's try that again. Click and drag over everything here. And I'm going to group it together, Control G, or you can come up to the top and use your group and ungroup right here. And I just want to make a few small adjustments here to make sure I'm within my print and cut borders. Okay. And to see those better, it might be better to turn my transparency all the way up so I can better see what's going on. So I'm a little nervous that my cut line's right here, so I'm going to scoot everything over this direction. Okay, that looks good. All right, so I'm going to connect my printer, and I am going to be printing this on 110-pound cardstock because I want this to be nice and sturdy. But I'm using white cardstock, and then it's just going to print these red lines. It will not print this black outline because it's, if you click on it, it's only, let's make sure. Let's ungroup this. So I can come up here and hit ungroup. And let's look at our black outline. So I'm going to give it no point value. Now that it has no point value, it will not print. So you have to give something a point value to print for a line color. These are fills, so they will print. So the only thing that's going to print on our piece of paper right now is going to be our registration marks will print, and then our red strips will print. So I'm not going to make any more changes to my piece of paper. Again, I'm just going to grab everything and then I'm just going to group it together so it's easier to move on to the next one. Control G. All right, so I'm going to hook up my printer and print that. Okay, so I've got my piece of paper printed here, and as you can see, all it did was print the red lines, which is exactly what we wanted it to do, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my cut mat here, and you wanna make sure this little square ends up in the top right side of your mat. So it needs to look exactly like it does on the screen. So we're gonna put that on there just like that. Okay, load this up into our machine. Okay, now that we are all loaded up onto our machine, we're gonna come back to here into the sun panel. We already set everything up here, so let's go back to our sun panel and take a quick look. So on our sun panel, we have our white line is going to be our score line, and then we added a pause. So then we're going to cut out our black line. That is it. So scoring the white, cutting the black. Make sure you have your cut settings set up for what you need. And it's actually set up, it's gonna score first. So I've got mine set up to score. And then it'll give me a pause to give me time to change. So once I've got that all set up, I'm just gonna hit send. So it's gonna do my score lines first. So right now it's reading my registration marks. That's all it's doing. And the other thing is you want to make sure you're not making any changes to your screen once you've printed it, because if you make changes, things might not turn out right. So it read my score lines and it liked them. So now all it's doing is my scores. So here's my pause. This is the time for me to change my, my blade. So now I'm gonna be ready to cut. Okay, so now I'm just gonna come over here and then I'm just gonna hit resume. And now it's going to do the cut lines. Okay, and then before you unload, You always want to peel at the corner and make sure that it cut all the way through, and it did. So now I can go ahead and hit unload. And then this is one side. Got a little goofed right here, but that's okay. One of my scallops got a little goofed. Didn't quite cut right. I can manually fix that. That is not a problem. Okay, so then when you go to cut it out, this is what's left. And so I'll peel this off to show you where my score lines are at. So it scores right here on this flap. So right on that edge is a score line. It scores right in the middle. And then it's gonna score on the edge here. Okay, and then these are the bottom flaps that are going to fold up. So then that is a look at the sides. So it looks just like a lovely regular popcorn box. So you're gonna do the same process to the other side. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll put the whole thing together. Okay, so here is my second one cut out. I went and just took the same pieces that I did, grouped them together, rotated them to make them fit on the second part. And then the only thing I really did different was I turned this sideways on my paper so I could cut out my rectangle down here, so I don't need to waste another sheet of paper for that. So again, we've got our solid square up here in the corner, and the rest of our registration marks here. I'm going to put that square on the top right side of my mat. Get that pressed down. Okay, so this is what goes into your cutting machine this direction. We'll get that in there. We'll load the cut mat. And then again, going to our send panel, and we are doing the same thing this time. So white score lines, you're going to score. Black lines you're going to cut, and that's all you need to do. Add a pause in between the two, so that way you've got time to change over your blade if you need to. If you're using a newer machine with 2 different slots, you might not need to do that. So I'm just gonna come over here and make sure I've got mine set up correctly. Again, we're scoring on the white line and we're cutting on the black line. So this time I have one extra box that it's going to cut down here, and that's going to be for the inside of my box. Once I've got that set up, and then we can just, let's make sure it's going to do the scoring first. So I need to adjust my blade for scoring. I like to score on a 0 blade. Okay, so now it's all set up. I'm going to hit send. And again, the first thing that it's going to do is find my registration marks and read those. So read the top one, it's reading the one here, and the one up top. If you're having trouble with your registration marks, I will link a video below to help you kind of troubleshoot those registration marks and what you can do. So now, again, it's doing just my score lines. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put together our popcorn box. Now that we've got it all printed how we want it, this is the piece that has the score lines for the side flaps. You'll just fold on all the score lines here. You've got the bottom and another piece there. And then your other half here is just going to fold on the score line there. And then you also have the bottom pieces here that are going to fold. Okay, and now we can go ahead and start assembling. So I'm just going to put some glue on this side fold right here. Doesn't need a ton of glue, but you do need enough to make sure it's going to stick. And then I'm going to lay this one on top of it. And you just want to try to line up those score lines. So do that to kind of press that down. And then you can also fold on that line to get that seam nicely put together. Give that a good crease. That looks good. Okay, and then we can do the same thing with this one. This one's actually going to be a lot easier. We'll just fold that one in. I'm going to put some glue on here. Okay, and then we can just fold this piece over on top of it. And that should just line up nicely. And then you just want to line up the scallops should be at the same height. And then your score lines should be at the same height. So you might have to bump and nudge things around a little bit. You'll get that score line. Fold that down nicely. And then you can also flatten that out and give it a nice crease this way. Same thing, flip this one over, make sure that one looks nice. And then you just have to worry about the bottom. So we can just fold these in like that, and then this top one is gonna just fold over. And that is really all you have to do. So, you leave it open. I'm gonna put some glue on these tabs here. And you can even put glue along the entire piece because we have an inner panel that we'll put on the inside that will adhere all of these together. So I can go ahead and put glue on that whole part there and just fold that over. And then I can set it on the table to really press that in. You can stick a ruler down there to press those side flaps. Okay. And then again, I'm going to put glue on this entire part here because it's going to also stick to the inside piece that we're going to add just to give it a little better of a hold here. Okay. And then this one's just going to fold straight across. You might have to kind of nudge things around a little bit to get it in place. And then you can flip that over. Again, take that ruler to press everything down. Okay. And then your inner piece, again, just a nice layer to help seal it all up. I'll just put glue on the entire thing. And then that you can kind of just drop down in there and it should just lay nice and flat. It is slightly smaller, so it should fit nicely. You shouldn't really have to worry too much, but just press those edges in there. Okay, And then once your box is nice and dry, all you have to do is fill it with some goodies. But there is your lovely little popcorn box.